it for you as a little dictionary sort of thing. But basically, it's tyrant, autocrat, right? So egalitarian, everybody should sort of have a say and be treated equal. Despotic, I'm a tyrant and I oppress you and I control you. Okay. So, long and short of it is, democracy is tricky. It's not simple, and it does not necessarily come in the United States from the Greek folks. It's all over the place. All right. Then Joshua starts talking about the nation-state system. What's a state? South Carolina is a state. But it gets sort of confusing when he's talking about state or writing about state. It is sort of a political entity over a territory. So think of the map. There's a map right there. All those little things, those are countries, but they're states. And they're all sort of made up. I mean, it's no. If one thing that's really interesting about a map, there are lines on the map. There are no lines on the globe. Well, there's walls. But in any case, okay. So, the idea was that these sort of nation states or whatever, and developed trying to get away from aristocratic control, where local folks who were all rich and controlled everything were completely and utterly in control. So that's sort of what the nation state came from, this idea, or democracy came to the nation state. I don't want these all rich people to be, in control of absolutely everything, just because they're all rich and powerful and everything like that. And also, one of the things I think is really, really interesting here is that Joshua here is arguing that during the American Revolution, a lot of the stuff that ended up in the Constitution was influenced by early Americans' contact with the Iroquois League, which used democratic principles in lots of different ways. I like this. This implies that such celebrated and beloved concepts as liberty and equality did not spread from Western Europe to the rest of the world. There is evidence to suggest that contact with life outside the confines of the colonial state helped transmit these values to Euro-descended colonists as they interacted with Native American tribes in their daily lives. This insight not only corrects historical misconceptions and challenges ethnocentrism, but it also helps to deepen our understanding of global democratic traditions. Democracy has been occurring for a very long time and has been practiced by a multitude of populations. So, in other words, this last paragraph is muy, muy importante. Democracy is not an absolute that rests neatly between lines on a map. For example, this country has democracy and that country does not. Instead, it's more like a cluster of muddled gray areas that vary over time and space. This is because the heart of democracy is based on decisions. Within democracies, various decisions are made with democratic involvement, such as who is the best performer on American Idol, while other decisions are negotiated by international elites. Or, international elites decide to get out of the Paris Climate Accord. Consequently, democracy applies only to certain spaces and certain issues, never to a country as whole. And in the USA, most decisions that are made that impacts our daily life, all the laws and rules and everything like that, grow out of non-democratic practices. It's more of elected elite officials deciding what we ought to be doing, because we have a representative democracy, not a direct democracy. We have the Electoral College, right? The majority of people voted for Senator Clinton, Secretary Clinton, yet Trump is our president. And That's sort of the way the Constitution was created, in part because the framers, feared, the stupidity of the masses. Oh, look where that's gotten us. Okay, but in any case, so what we have here, instead of thinking this country is a democracy and this country isn't USSR, boo hiss. There are spaces of democracy, or TAZs, temporary autonomous zones. That's sort of funny, but it's true. Okay, so the main argument, and this is solid gold, that's why I have the solid gold dancer. Boy, I missed that show. The main point here is public involvement in making decisions is what makes a democracy democratic. Public involvement in making decisions is what makes a democracy democratic. Keeping an eye on which decisions are democratic and the particular way the public involved is critical for analyzing democracy. As a result, some activists argue that Western democracy isn't particularly democratic at all. Okay, so American democracy, American Idol. I never even watched that show. Okay, so this stuff is sort of depressing. It was over 10 years ago, but 2006 poll. Over a third of U.S. citizens felt that voting in American Idol mattered more than voting for the president of the country. Basically, one of the things that Joshua here is talking about is that we're just so skeptical and cynical, in part because of the way media portrays things. They don't educate us about where people stand on this or that. It's all about if it bleeds, it leads. Scandals and all that type of stuff. Also, lots of bad stats when it comes to the idea of how many people actually vote and who votes. Usually it's the wealthier people. A lot of people, because of laws, are barred from voting in the first place. A disproportionate percentage of the electorate thus favors politicians who most likely will benefit the wealthy rather than the poor. So who are they going to work for? The wealthy, not the poor. So it's all about money, all about money, all about money. Got the power elite. Sociologist C. Wright Mills argued that the control of the power elite over the government leaves ordinary citizens powerless. And a lot of people think, sometimes in my most cynical, skeptical moments, it doesn't really matter. Perhaps viewers feel American Idol is more democratic than our political system because here they might actually have a say. Okay. And also, oftentimes what we think about is that, okay, I voted, I did my civic duty, blah, 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 and now, but that's just part of it, right? People vote, but then, once the officials are elected, they, decide, they make decisions about we should have this law instead of this law over here, blah, 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 blah. And they get money from people to help them make the decisions. And usually, they vote with their pocketbooks. So, and what's really important is what, once somebody's elected, if they can be reelected, they work for reelection. And the only real pressure you can put on folks is to try to get them not to be reelected. But again, we got gerrymandering, where folks sort of, reconstruct various districts, so their particular party will continue to win, it's just crazy. And we got more about, we got that story about poor old Betsy Butler, who tried to do something good, but big money kicked her out of office. And all this, it's sort of depressing, yeah. But bottom of page 65 here. The lesson here is twofold. First, well-meaning elected officials are constantly fighting an uphill battle that is infused with corporate money, and therefore they must make careful political calculations if they want to stay in office. Second, voters do themselves disservice by not organizing and participating in some type of collective effort. And this last bit is very important. Unfortunately, as more people become disenchanted with politics, the less they vote. Globally, voter turnout has been steadily declining for the last 50 years. However, other forms of political participation, donating to campaigns, conducting advocacy events, participating in boycotts and demonstrations, have been on the rise all over the world. The critical issue thus becomes how we participate in democracy. Yeah, that's important. I'm going to stop right here and upload some of this stuff and then get back to the rest of the chapter.